The vast ceremonial courtroom of the Kaldar Union Justice Hall stretched before Captain Anya Sharma like the maw of some ancient beast. The air hummed with tension as delegates from a dozen alien species murmured among themselves, their varied anatomies creating a living tapestry of tentacles, crystalline appendages, and multifaceted eyes that all seemed fixed on her. Standing alone on the defendant's platform, Anya fought to maintain her composure. She was the only human in the entire station, possibly in this entire sector of space, and she'd never felt more isolated. The charges against Terran Captain Anya Sharma have been verified, announced Grand Magistrate Zorgan, his voice reverberating through the chamber without need for amplification. The Kaldar official's gaunt, gray-skinned form towered over the central dais, for spindly arms gesturing in formal patterns as he spoke. Violation of Sacred Silent Zone X 7932. Disruption of cosmic equilibrium. Interference with Kaldar long-range sensor arrays. Anya gripped the railing of her platform, knuckles whitening. With all due respect, Magistrate, I was being pursued by space pirates. The Silent Zone was not marked on any standard navigational charts, and Silence. Zorgan's voice cracked like a whip. Your ignorance does not absolve your transgression. The pirates have been dealt with separately. Your actions caused an energy surge that destabilized a critically important region of space. Anya swallowed hard. When she'd gunned her cargo ship's engines and made that desperate jump into unmarked space to escape the pirates, she never imagined she'd end up here, facing judgment from the notoriously rigid Kaldar Union. She was just a freighter captain, experienced and skilled, certainly, but hardly a diplomat. The penalty for such violations is clear under Interstellar Statute 5892b, continued Zorgan, unfurling a glowing scroll that seemed to be made of light itself. Molecular dissolution. A humane and swift execution. The words hit Anya like a physical blow. She staggered backward. Wait, what? You can't be serious. Over a navigation error, several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but none spoke up. The Kaldar reputation for severe justice was well known throughout the galaxy, but this seemed extreme even by their standards. The sentence will be carried out at the next planetary alignment, 48 standard hours from now. Zorgan raised two of his arms in a formal gesture that signaled finality. This is insane, Anya shouted, panic rising in her chest. I demand representation. I demand to contact Earth authorities. You can't just. The Kaldar Union does not recognize Terran jurisdiction in matters of cosmic sanctity, Zorgan said flatly. The decision is final. A hush fell over the courtroom, broken only by the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Anya's mind raced, searching desperately for some way out, some diplomatic lever she could pull. I object to these proceedings. The voice was melodious and commanding, cutting through the silence like a blade of pure crystal. The entire assembly turned as one toward the source. A holographic projection materialized at the center of the chamber, gradually coalescing into the form of a tall, slender figure of unmistakable regal bearing. As the image stabilized, gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Even Zorgan appeared momentarily stunned. Queen Lyra of the Eldorian Empire, Zorgan acknowledged, his formal tone unable to hide a note of surprise. This matter does not concern Eldoria. The holographic figure tilted her head slightly, a gesture that somehow conveyed both amusement and displeasure. Queen Lyra's appearance was mesmerizing. Her skin had a subtle luminescence that shifted with her movements, and her eyes were multifaceted like gemstones, reflecting colors Anya had never seen before. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to be composed of living material, pulsing gently with what might have been its own circulatory system. I disagree, Magistrate, said Lyra, her voice carrying easily despite its softness. The energy disturbance in the Silent Zone affected several Eldorian monitoring stations. We have a vested interest in this matter. Zorgan's face twisted into what might have been a scowl. Nevertheless, the judgment has been passed according to Kaldar law. And yet, Lyra continued smoothly, under Article 12 of the Galactic Concordat, to which both our civilizations are signatories, I may propose an alternative resolution in cases where interstellar stability might be affected. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Anya held her breath. She knew nothing about the Eldorian Empire, except that they were said to be an ancient, highly advanced civilization known for their biological technology and their careful neutrality in most galactic conflicts. What alternative do you propose? Zorgan asked warily. Queen Lyris, holographic form, turned slightly to regard Anya directly for the first time. Those mesmerizing, color-shifting eyes seemed to pierce straight through to her soul. I propose a marriage alliance, said the queen. The courtroom erupted in shocked exclamations. Anya felt her jaw drop open. Marriage? She sputtered. To whom? To me, replied Lyra simply, as if it were the most natural suggestion in the universe. This is preposterous. Zorgan's voice rose above the clamor. Queen Lyra, with the utmost respect for your position, this human violated sacred space. The penalty must serve the greater good of galactic harmony, Lyra interrupted. The Eldorian Empire has been monitoring humanity's expansion into the stars with great interest. A formal alliance through this human would establish diplomatic channels that could prevent similar incidents in the future. Anya stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Marriage to an alien queen? As an alternative to execution? This had to be some bizarre dream. Perhaps she was already dead, and this was her brain's last desperate hallucination. Zorgan was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Your Majesty, there are established protocols for diplomatic relations. This unexpected proposal is perfectly valid under Section 7 of the Concordat. Lyra finished for him. And as the representative of a founding civilization of the Concordat, I invoke my right to claim this human for political asylum through matrimonial alliance. The legal debate continued in increasingly technical terms that Anya could barely follow. Various delegates joined in, some supporting Lyra's unusual interpretation of interstellar law, others backing Zorgan's insistence on maintaining traditional Kaldar justice. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Zorgan raised all four arms in a gesture of reluctant acquiescence. The Kaldar Union acknowledges Queen Lyra's right of intervention, he announced, his voice tight with suppressed fury. Captain Anya Sharma is hereby remanded to Eldorian custody for the purpose of matrimonial alliance. However, he added, fixing Anya with his cold gaze, should this arrangement fail to materialize for any reason, the original sentence will be immediately reinstated. Before Anya could even begin to formulate a response, she felt a strange, tingling sensation envelop her body. The courtroom began to fade from view as a translocation field surrounded her. The last thing she saw was Zorgan's bitter expression and the enigmatic gaze of Queen Lyra's hologram as reality dissolved around her. When Anya's vision cleared, she found herself standing in a chamber unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls appeared to be alive, not merely decorated with plants, but actually composed of living tissue that pulsed with gentle bioluminescence. The floor beneath her feet had a slightly yielding quality, like moss, but was perfectly supportive. The ceiling arched high overhead in organic curves, with what seemed to be naturally formed skylights, allowing in the soft purple light of an alien sky. Welcome to Eldoria Prime, Captain Sharma. Anya spun around to find herself face to face with Queen Lyra, no longer a hologram, but physically present. Up close, the queen was even more striking. Her skin had the luminous quality of fine porcelain with an inner light, and those extraordinary eyes shifted colors like oil on water as they observed Anya with evident curiosity. What the hell just happened? Anya demanded, her shock finally giving way to anger. You can't just claim me like some kind of prize. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Would you have preferred molecular dissolution? No, of course not, but then perhaps you might begin with gratitude, the queen suggested, though her tone held more amusement than reproach. Anya took a deep breath, trying to center herself. You're right. Thank you for saving my life. But I don't understand any of this. Why would you want to marry a human you've never met? What could possibly be the political advantage? Lyra gestured toward an arrangement of what appeared to be living furniture. Please be seated. We have much to discuss. Reluctantly, Anya perched on the edge of what seemed to be a chair formed from some kind of hardened plant material. It adjusted beneath her, conforming to her body in a way that was surprisingly comfortable. This marriage, Lyra began, seating herself opposite Anya with fluid grace, is not what your human customs might lead you to expect. It is a binding treaty, a symbolic union that establishes you not merely as a consort, but as a bridge between our civilizations. But why me? I'm just a freighter captain, not a diplomat or a political leader. Sometimes fate provides opportunities we did not anticipate, Lyra replied. Your incident in the Silent Zone created a diplomatic opening I've been seeking for some time. Something in her tone made Anya suspicious. There's more to this than you're saying. Lyra's eyes shifted to a deeper blue. Perceptive. Yes, there is more. She waved a hand, and a three-dimensional holographic display appeared between them, showing a map of the local galactic sector. The energy surge your ship caused didn't merely annoy the Kaldar. It weakened an ancient energy network that the Eldorian Empire has secretly maintained for generations. The display zoomed in to show a web of faint energy lines connecting various points in space. Several sections glowed red, indicating damage. This network, Lyra continued, is our primary defense against something we call the Star Devourer, a parasitic energy entity that has been dormant at the edge of our galaxy for millennia. Anya stared at the display, noting a dark, pulsing mass at the periphery of the map. And this thing is, what exactly? A cosmic predator. It consumes stellar energy, leaving dead husks of planets in its wake. It has been dormant for 20,000 years, but there have been signs of stirring. The Kaldar are aware of the energy network, but believe it to be merely a religious boundary. They do not know, or refuse to acknowledge, the true threat. Anya leaned back, trying to process this information. So, my ship accidentally damaged your secret defense system, and now you want to marry me as, what? Compensation. Not compensation, Lyra corrected. Alliance. The Eldorian Empire has observed humanity for decades. Your species possesses qualities that fascinate us, particularly your adaptability under pressure and your nonlinear problem-solving. The Kaldar are powerful but rigid in their thinking. Eldorians excel at biological innovation, but can be predictable in our approaches. Humanity offers a new perspective that may be crucial in the coming crisis. And you couldn't just establish normal diplomatic relations? The bureaucracy of interstellar politics moves slowly. This way was expedient and legally binding under the Concordat. Anya stood up, pacing the strange living chamber. This is insane. You're asking me to agree to a political marriage to an alien queen I just met to help fight some cosmic horror I've never heard of? Yes. Lyra's direct answer was disarming in its simplicity. And if I refuse, then I am obligated to return you to Kaldar custody for execution. Lyra's expression remained neutral, but something in her eyes suggested she took no pleasure in this fact. Anya ran her hands through her hair in frustration. That's not much of a choice. Nevertheless, it is yours to make, said Lyra. However, I will not accept just any human as my political consort. You must prove yourself worthy of the role. Prove myself, Anya repeated incredulously. You're the one who proposed this arrangement. And you are the one whose actions damaged the energy network, Lyra countered smoothly. If you are to represent humanity in this alliance, you must demonstrate that you possess the qualities I believe are unique to your species. You must pass 3 adaptation assessments. And if I fail, then the treaty becomes void, and you return to face Kaldar justice. Lyra rose with fluid grace. The first assessment begins tomorrow. I suggest you rest while you can. With that, the alien queen glided from the chamber, leaving Anya alone in her beautiful, organic prison, contemplating the impossible choice before her: marry an alien queen or face a certain death. The next morning, or what passed for morning on Eldoria Prime. Anya was escorted through the living palace by silent attendants whose bodies seemed partially composed of the same bioluminescent material as the walls. They led her to a large chamber where Queen Lyra awaited, surrounded by what appeared to be her advisors. "Your first assessment test, survival and adaptability," Lyra announced without preamble. "You will enter a simulation environment designed to push beyond standard solutions." Before Anya could protest, the room around her began to dissolve. She felt a momentary sensation of weightlessness, then found herself standing on the surface of what was clearly another planet. The sky was a churning mass of crimson clouds, and the landscape around her was a hellscape of crumbling mountains and boiling lakes. In the distance, what looked like a volcanic eruption sent a plume of black smoke into the atmosphere. A computerized voice spoke in her ear. Simulation parameters set. Survival duration, 12 standard hours. Environmental hazards active. Indigenous predators active. Limited resources available. Assessment commencing now. "Wait," Anya shouted. "What am I supposed to?" The ground beneath her feet trembled violently, interrupting her protest. A crack formed and rapidly expanded, forcing her to leap aside as the earth split open. Heart racing, Anya quickly surveyed her surroundings. The simulation was incredibly realistic. She could feel the scorching heat on her skin and smell the acrid gases in the air. She spotted what looked like a small cave in a nearby rock formation and made a dash for it, narrowly avoiding a geyser of superheated steam that erupted where she had been standing moments before. Inside the cave, she found temporary shelter and took stock of her situation. "Okay, Anya," she muttered to herself. "Just another day in the life of a space freight jockey. Hostile environment, no supplies, probably monsters. Nothing you haven't handled before." The cave contained some basic supplies, a rudimentary filtration mask, a multi-tool, and what appeared to be a portable energy cell. Not much to work with, but better than nothing. She quickly donned the mask and ventured back outside, determined to find a more secure location before nightfall, assuming this hellish place even had a night cycle. The following hours were a grueling test of everything Anya had learned in her years of space travel. The environment seemed deliberately designed to counter standard survival protocols. The water in the streams was caustic. The few plants that grew were poisonous to touch, and the weather shifted unpredictably from scorching heat to freezing cold. Worst of all were the predators, sleek, six-limbed creatures with reflective carapaces that could camouflage against almost any background. They hunted in packs and seemed to learn from each encounter, adapting their tactics each time Anya managed to evade them. By what she estimated was the halfway point of the simulation, Anya was exhausted, dehydrated, and nursing several minor injuries. She had managed to create a defensible position in the ruins of what appeared to be an abandoned structure, but her supplies were dwindling rapidly. As night fell, bringing with it a bone-chilling cold, Anya realized that following standard survival protocols would lead to failure. The simulation was designed to counter textbook responses. She needed to think differently. Examining the energy cell more carefully, she realized it contained enough power to create a significant electromagnetic pulse if overloaded correctly. Such a pulse might disrupt the predator's camouflage systems and possibly even affect the environmental hazards, which seemed to operate on some kind of program cycle. It was a desperate gamble. Using her only power source this way would leave her without light or heat in the freezing night. But the alternative was a slow, inevitable failure as her resources dwindled. Anya modified the energy cell using her multi-tool, creating a crude but effective EMP device. She waited until she detected movement outside her shelter, the hunting pack returning, then activated the device and threw it as far as she could from her position. The resulting pulse was far more powerful than she had anticipated. A wave of energy rippled across the landscape, temporarily disrupting not just the predator's camouflage, but seemingly the entire simulation. For a brief moment, the world around her flickered, revealing the grid-like pattern of a projection system. Taking advantage of the disruption, Anya dashed from her shelter and made for a distant mountain ridge that had remained stable throughout the environmental changes. She navigated by the stars, using old sailors' techniques her grandfather had taught her long ago on Earth's oceans. By dawn, she had reached a plateau that offered both natural protection from the elements and excellent visibility of the surrounding terrain. Using materials scavenged along the way, she constructed a series of mirrors and reflective panels, creating a solar still that could extract pure water from the poisonous vegetation. When the simulation finally ended, Anya was standing at the summit of the mountain, surveying the chaos below with a grim smile of satisfaction. She was battered, exhausted, and hungry, but very much alive. The Hell's Cape dissolved around her, and she found herself back in the chamber with Queen Lyra and her advisors. They were watching her with expressions that ranged from impressed to skeptical. "You survived," Lyra acknowledged, "not merely by enduring, but by recognizing the need to abandon conventional wisdom." "The simulation was rigged," Anya said bluntly, still catching her breath. "It was designed to counter standard survival techniques." "Of course it was," Lyra agreed. "Predictable challenges elicit predictable responses. I needed to see how you would react when the obvious solutions failed." One of the advisors stepped forward, a tall, imposing Eldorian male with darker skin markings than the queen. "The human relied on improvisation rather than discipline," he observed critically. "A questionable quality in a potential royal consort. Yet effective, Commander Kalen," Lyra replied. "Particularly her use of the energy cell." Creative destruction followed by adaptive rebuilding. She turned to Anya. "You have passed the first assessment. Rest now. The second begins tomorrow." As Anya was escorted back to her quarters, she caught Commander Kalen watching her with undisguised suspicion. Clearly, not everyone in the Eldorian court was pleased with their queen's unusual choice of alliance. Back in her rooms, Anya found food and clean clothing waiting for her. As she ate, she contemplated her situation. The marriage still seemed absurd, but the threat Lyra had described, this star devourer, sounded genuinely terrifying. And if Earth lay in its potential path? Her thoughts were interrupted when Queen Lyra entered the chamber, unannounced and unescorted. "You have questions," the queen stated simply. "Anya noidit. A few thousand, actually. Starting with, what's your real interest in humans? There must be other species with adaptability and problem-solving skills." Lyra settled onto one of the living seats, which reshaped itself to accommodate her form. "There are many intelligent species in our galaxy, each with their unique strengths. But humanity has something rare, a balance of logical reasoning and emotional intelligence. You form attachments quickly, adapt to change readily, and possess remarkable pattern recognition." "You make us sound like pets with good tricks," Anya said dryly. A sound like crystal wind chimes emanated from Lyra, an Eldorian laugh, Anya realized. "Not pets," Lyra corrected. "Potential partners. The Eldorian Empire has maintained the energy network for millennia, but we have grown, predictable in our thinking. The Star Devourer evolves constantly. Our latest models suggest it may be developing countermeasures to our containment strategies. And you think humans might see patterns you've missed? That is my hope." Lyra's eyes shifted to a thoughtful green hue. "Tell me, why did you become a freighter captain?" The question caught Anya off guard. I guess I wanted freedom. The chance to see new worlds without being tied to any corporate or government agenda. Even though it meant isolation, danger, uncertainty, especially because of those things, Anya admitted. "The challenge is part of the appeal." Lyra nodded slowly. "This is a quality many Eldorians struggle to understand. We value harmony, continuity. For us, predictability is comfort." She leaned forward. "What do you want to know about the Star Devourer?" Anya considered the question. "How does it feed? What triggers its awakening? And why can't you just destroy it rather than contain it?" Lyra activated a holographic display that hovered between them. It showed what appeared to be a dark, amorphous entity surrounded by a web of energy. "The Star Devourer absorbs stellar energy directly," she explained. "It begins with a star's outer layers, gradually consuming its way to the core. As it feeds, it grows stronger and more intelligent. We believe it entered a dormant state after an ancient war depleted the energy sources in its original feeding ground. The display shifted to show the entity surrounded by a complex network of energy filaments. Our ancestors discovered it in its dormant state and constructed the energy network to keep it contained and asleep. The network creates a specific resonance pattern that disrupts the devourer's ability to absorb energy efficiently. In destroying it, we've tried, Lyra said simply. Conventional weapons are ineffective against a non-corporeal entity. More powerful options, antimatter, quantum disruptors, risk catastrophic damage to the fabric of space-time itself. Anya studied the holographic display thoughtfully. And my little accident in the silent zone damaged the network. Yes, the energy surge your ship created while evading the pirates disrupted a key node in the network. The Kaldar blamed you for interfering with their sacred zone, but they refused to acknowledge the greater threat. Why would they ignore something this serious? Lyra's expression darkened. Politics. Admitting the threat exists would mean acknowledging Eldorian authority over the containment protocol. Their pride would not allow it. Anya was beginning to understand the complex interstellar politics at play and her unexpected role in them. So this marriage alliance gives me leverage to act more openly to repair and strengthen the network, using the Concordat's mutual defense provisions. And what happens after the start of our is contained? Do I get divorced and sent home? Lyra's eyes shifted to an unreadable purple hue. That would depend on many factors. She rose gracefully. You should rest. Your second assessment will require different skills. As the queen departed, Anya found herself with more questions than answers, and a growing suspicion that there was even more to this situation than Lyra was revealing. The second assessment came the following day. Anya was escorted to what appeared to be a diplomatic chamber. Here, the organic architecture of the Eldorian palace was supplemented with more conventional furnishings, presumably to accommodate visitors from other worlds. Queen Lyra awaited her, along with Commander Kalen and several other advisors. Your second assessment test communication and understanding, the Queen announced. You will mediate a dispute between two dependent species of the Eldorian Empire. Kalen stepped forward. The Novalites and the Tyrolean Collective share a resource-rich moon in the Eldorian Protectorate. They have reached an impasse regarding mining rights for a rare element called chronomite. Previous mediators have failed to resolve the conflict. And you expect me to succeed where they failed? Anya asked skeptically. I don't know anything about these species or their cultures. That is precisely the point, Lyra replied. A fresh perspective, unburdened by preconceptions. Before Anya could protest further, the chamber doors opened to admit the two delegations. Anya struggled to maintain her composure as she got her first look at the disputants. The Novalites were crystalline beings, their transparent bodies refracting light in complex patterns. They moved with precise, geometric motions and communicated through pulses of light that emanated from their core structures. The Tyroleans, by contrast, were amorphous entities that seemed to be composed of a dense, soil-like substance. They constantly shifted shape, with temporary protrusions forming what appeared to be sensory organs or manipulative appendages as needed. Their communication consisted of low-frequency vibrations that Anya felt more than heard. A translation device was provided, converting their alien communications into standard galactic language. Even so, Anya quickly realized that translation alone wouldn't bridge the vast cultural gap between these species. The dispute itself was complex. The moon contained rich deposits of chronomite, a substance both species valued for different reasons. The Novalites used it in their reproductive crystallization process, while the Tyroleans incorporated it into their communal consciousness matrix. Traditional mining techniques favored by the Tyroleans caused harmonic disruptions that damaged Novalite crystal structures. Meanwhile, the Novalites' preferred extraction method leached minerals from the soil that the Tyroleans considered part of their extended being. For hours, Anya listened as each side presented increasingly technical arguments about mining quotas, territorial boundaries, and historical usage rights. Kalen watched with barely concealed satisfaction as the negotiations repeatedly stalled. During a brief recess, Anya stepped away from the delegates and approached a viewport that overlooked the disputed moon, visible as a small, shimmering orb against the backdrop of space. Something about its appearance triggered a thought. When the session resumed, Anya took a different approach. Before we continue discussing division of resources, she began, I'd like to ask both delegations a question about the moon itself. Have either of you conducted a comprehensive environmental analysis of the chronomite deposits? The question seemed to confuse both groups. After a series of light pulses and vibrations among their respective members, the Novolite representative answered, We have analyzed the crystalline purity and resonance patterns of the deposits in our territories. The Tyrolean representative added, We have mapped soil composition and mineral density throughout the regions we inhabit. But has anyone studied the moon as a whole system? Anya pressed. When neither delegation responded, Anya requested access to their separate surveys. Combining the data revealed a pattern that neither species had noticed. The chronomite deposits were not static, but slowly migrating throughout the moon's crust, following a cycle that would take approximately 75 standard years to complete. Moreover, the mining techniques of both species were accelerating this movement, potentially leading to a critical instability in the moon's already fragile tectonic structure. What I'm seeing, Anya explained, is that your competition over current deposits is not only creating conflict between you, but actually threatening the long-term viability of the resource itself. If current extraction patterns continue, my projections indicate the moon may experience catastrophic structural failure within 20 standard years. This revelation caused immediate alarm among both delegations. Their subsequent communications, flashing lights, and rumbling vibrations were so rapid and intense that the translation system struggled to keep pace. Anya seized the opportunity. Instead of dividing the moon into territories, I propose a collaborative approach. The Novalites, with their expertise in crystalline structures, could develop a new extraction method that stabilizes the chronomite migration patterns. The Tyroleans, with their innate understanding of geological systems, could implement a managed extraction schedule that maintains the moon's tectonic balance. She pulled up a simulation showing how such collaboration would actually increase the sustainable yield for both species while preserving the moon's integrity. This wouldn't just be a compromise. It would be a genuine improvement for everyone involved. The negotiations that followed were intense and complex, but the focus had shifted from territorial disputes to technical collaboration. By the end of the day, the two delegations had agreed to form a joint research and extraction commission, something unprecedented in their historical relations. As the delegates departed, Anya caught Queen Lyra watching her with those inscrutable, color-shifting eyes. Interesting approach, the Queen observed. Rather than imposing a solution, you reframed the problem entirely. Commander Kalen seemed less impressed. The human relied on emotional manipulation, creating a shared threat to force cooperation. No, Anya countered. The threat was already there. Neither side could see it because they were too focused on their immediate concerns. I just helped them step back and see the bigger picture. Which is precisely what I hoped you would do, said Lyra. The ability to perceive patterns beyond immediate self-interest is rare and valuable. She turned to her advisors. The second assessment is complete. Captain Sharma has passed. Later that evening, as Anya rested in her quarters, she found herself reflecting on the strange path that had brought her here. A week ago, she had been a simple freighter captain, concerned only with cargo manifests and fuel costs. Now she was negotiating alien treaties and preparing to marry an alien queen to save the galaxy from a cosmic horror. Part of her still couldn't believe this was happening. Another part, the part that had always yearned for adventure beyond the ordinary, was strangely exhilarated by the challenge. Her reverie was interrupted by an urgent chime at her door. When it slid open, she was surprised to find Commander Kalen standing there, his expression even more severe than usual. The Queen requests your presence immediately, he stated without preamble. There have been developments. Anya followed him through the living corridors of the palace to a chamber she hadn't seen before. Clearly, some kind of strategic command center. Holographic displays filled the air, showing various sectors of space. Several of them pulsed with warning indicators. Queen Lyra stood at the center, surrounded by her advisors. Her normally composed features showed signs of strain. "What's happening?" Anya asked. "Unusual energy readings near the Star Devourer's containment zone," Lyra replied, gesturing to one of the displays. "The network is showing accelerated deterioration at multiple points." Anya studied the readouts. Even with her limited understanding of the system, she could see that something was very wrong. "Is this because of the damage my ship caused?" "No," said Lyra. "That node has been repaired. These are new disruptions, occurring simultaneously across widely separated sectors." Her eyes shifted to a troubled gray. "This is not natural degradation. You think someone's deliberately sabotaging the network?" Anya asked, startled. "We cannot rule out that possibility," Lyra admitted. "The Kaldar are still refusing full cooperation, claiming this is an internal Eldorian matter. And Kalen mentioned something about more extreme measures." The commander shot Lyra a sharp glance, which she ignored. "Some of my advisors have suggested we could strengthen the containment field by harvesting energy from nearby star systems," Lyra explained carefully. "It would temporarily weaken those systems, but might stabilize the network." "At the cost of how many inhabited worlds?" Anya asked. "That would depend on the specific system selected," Kalen interjected. "With proper planning, civilian casualties could be minimized." "Minimized, but not eliminated," Anya noted. "There has to be another way." The discussion was interrupted by an aide who rushed in with a data crystal. "Your Majesty, we've detected unauthorized communication from a Kaldar vessel near Monitoring Station 7. Lyra accepted the crystal and inserted it into a console. A series of encrypted transmissions appeared in the air before them. "Can we decode this?" "Our systems are working on it, but it appears to be using a variant of a pirate encryption protocol." The words triggered a memory for Anya. "The pirates who were chasing me. You said they were dealt with separately. What exactly happened to them?" "They were detained by Kaldar security forces," Kalen replied. "Standard procedure for unauthorized vessels in Kaldar space." "May I?" Anya gestured to the encrypted transmission. When Lyra nodded, she stepped forward and studied the pattern carefully. "I've seen something like this before. It's a modified version of a black market comm scrambler used in the Anteri sector. If you adjust the decryption algorithm to account for a quantum displacement." She manipulated the controls, applying a series of adjustments based on her experience with smuggler communications. Gradually, the transmission began to resolve into recognizable language. "Confirm Phase 2 is ready." The human ship provided the perfect cover for initial disruption. The Queen took the bait exactly as predicted. Once the Devourer awakens, Eldorian defenses will be overwhelmed, and the Kaldar Union will be positioned to. The transmission abruptly cut off, but the implication was clear. "They used me," Anya said quietly. "The pirates, the chase into the Silent Zone. It was all a setup to damage the network. I was just a pawn." Lyra's eyes shifted to a deep, stormy blue. "Not merely a pawn, a catalyst. They knew I would take interest in a human caught in this situation." "But why?" Anya asked, struggling to understand. Why would elements within the Kaldar want to awaken something that could destroy entire star systems? "Power," Kalen said grimly. "If the Star Devourer weakens Eldoria, the Kaldar could position themselves as the dominant force in this sector. They likely believe they can contain or control the entity once we are no longer in their way." "That's insane," Anya protested. "For what you've told me, nobody can control this thing." "Desperation and ambition often cloud judgment," Lyra observed. "The Kaldar Union has been declining in influence for centuries as Eldoria's biotech has advanced. Some factions would risk anything to restore their former glory." "We must act swiftly," Kalen urged. "Now that we know sabotage is involved, we should immediately begin energy harvesting procedures to reinforce the network." At the cost of innocent lives? Anya reminded him. A regrettable but necessary sacrifice, he countered. The alternative is far worse. Lyra had been silent, her multifaceted eyes studying the holographic displays with intense concentration. Before we resort to such measures, there is one more option. She turned to Anya. It is time for your third assessment. Far sooner than I had planned, but circumstances leave us little choice. A new holographic display appeared, showing a remote section of the energy network. We've detected signs of an imminent attack on this critical node. Simultaneously, one of our research vessels is stranded nearby, carrying scientists with the expertise to quickly repair network damage. Our scanners show they are alive, but in danger. Lyra's eyes locked with Anya's. You must make a choice, prevent the attack on the node, or rescue the scientists. We cannot do both with our limited resources in that sector. This isn't a test anymore, Anya said, realizing the stakes. This is a real situation. Yes, Lyra confirmed. Your third assessment is judgment under genuine pressure. The fate you choose will affect countless lives. Anya studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The energy node was clearly critical. Its loss would accelerate the network's deterioration exponentially. But the scientists represented the best hope for repairing damage quickly if the worst happened. What resources do I have? She asked. A single Eldorian scout vessel with limited armaments and a small tactical team, Kalen replied. The ship is fast, but not designed for both combat and rescue operations. Anya paced before the display, analyzing distances, weapon capabilities, and timing. An idea began to form. Risky, unconventional, but possibly effective. I need a direct communication channel to both the research vessel and the scout ship, she said. And I need to know exactly what kind of explosives or mines the saboteurs are likely using. As the requested information came in, Anya outlined her plan. The scout ship would approach the energy node at maximum speed, appearing to focus entirely on preventing the attack. Just before arrival, they would eject their emergency beacon buoys, modified to emit the same energy signature as the node itself. The saboteurs will detect multiple node signatures and won't know which is the real target, she explained. That should force them to split their forces or delay their attack while they investigate. Meanwhile, the scout ship would make a high-speed pass by the research vessel, not stopping for a full docking procedure, but deploying emergency evacuation tubes, a dangerous maneuver typically used only in extreme circumstances. The scientists transfer to the scout ship during the flyby, then the ship doubles back to the real node to defend it, Anya concluded. It's risky for everyone involved, but it gives us a chance at both objectives. Kalen looked skeptical. This plan relies on precise timing and assumes the saboteurs will react exactly as you predict. The risk of total failure is significant. True, Anya acknowledged. But harvesting energy from inhabited systems is a guaranteed tragedy. This at least gives us a chance to avoid that. Lyra studied Anya for a long moment, then nodded. Implement Captain Sharma's plan. Immediately. The next hours were tense as they monitored the operation from the command center. The modified beacon buoys performed even better than expected, creating enough confusion among the saboteurs to delay their attack. The emergency evacuation procedure was harrowing. 2 scientists suffered injuries during the transfer, but all made it aboard the scout ship. When the saboteurs finally identified the real node and converged on it, the scout ship was waiting. The ensuing battle was brief but fierce. The scout ship suffered damage, but managed to capture one of the saboteur vessels intact, with crew aboard. Prisoners, Kalen observed with satisfaction. They can provide confirmation of the conspiracy, and evidence we can present to the Kaldar Governing Council, Lyra added. This may be enough to force them to acknowledge the threat and cooperate with containment efforts. Anya had remained focused on the tactical display until the last saboteur ship was disabled. Only then did she allow herself to relax slightly. It worked. We saved both the node and the scientists. At considerable risk, Kalen noted. The scout ship is severely damaged. If the saboteurs had been better armed. But they weren't, Anya interrupted. Sometimes you have to gamble on incomplete information. That's what humans do best. Lyra's eyes had shifted to a warm amber hue. You have passed the third assessment, Captain Sharma. You've demonstrated strategic judgment under pressure and found a creative solution that preserved both immediate tactical objectives and broader ethical considerations. She turned to her advisors. Prepare for the union ceremony. It will take place tomorrow. As the command center emptied, Anya found herself alone with Lyra. So that's it. 3 tests passed, and now we get married. The union ceremony establishes our formal alliance, Lyra explained. It gives legal standing to our collaboration under the Concordat. And what happens after? Assuming we manage to contain this Star Devourer thing. Lyra's eyes shifted through several colors before settling on a deep violet. That will depend on many factors, including, perhaps, what you wish to happen. Before Anya could respond, an aide rushed in. Your Majesty, urgent news from the containment zone. The Star Devourer is showing signs of increased activity. Energy fluctuations have doubled in intensity over the past hour. Lyra's expression hardened. It seems our union comes not a moment too soon, Captain Sharma. Tomorrow, we formalize our alliance. And then, the real work begins. The union ceremony took place in the grand atrium of the Eldorian Royal Palace, a vast, cathedral-like space where the living architecture reached its most spectacular expression. Bioluminescent vines spiraled up towering columns, pulsing with gentle light. The ceiling was a translucent dome that filtered the purple Eldorian sunlight into prismatic patterns across the assembled dignitaries. Anya stood at the center of the atrium, wearing a ceremonial garment crafted from living Eldorian silk that adjusted its color to harmonize with her skin tone and emotional state. Currently, it shimmered with an anxious blend of blue and silver. Breathe, she reminded herself. Just another diplomatic mission. Just another day negotiating with aliens. Just getting married to their queen to save the galaxy. She had been briefed on the ceremony, but the details remained vague. Eldorian customs were complex and layered with meanings that didn't translate well into human terms. She knew only that the ceremony combined elements of political treaty signing with something more profound, a biological synchronization that Lyra had assured her was symbolic rather than invasive. A resonant tone filled the atrium, signaling the beginning of the ceremony. The assembled dignitaries, representatives from various worlds within the Eldorian sphere of influence, fell silent. Even the living architecture seemed to still, the pulsing lights steadying to a constant glow. Queen Lyra entered from the far side of the atrium. She wore no crown or obvious symbols of office, but her regal bearing made such things unnecessary. Her ceremonial garment was similar to Anya's, but far more elaborate, with patterns that seemed to flow and change as she moved. Around her neck was a pendant containing what appeared to be a small fragment of crystallized energy, pulsing with the same rhythm as the containment network. As Lyra approached, Anya was struck by how much her perception of the alien queen had changed in the short time since their first meeting. What had initially seemed cold and calculating now registered as composed and thoughtful. The unnerving alienness of her features had become fascinating, rather than intimidating. They met at the center of the atrium, beneath the apex of the dome where the light was brightest. An Eldorian official stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be a living document, a thin, flexible sheet of biological material inscribed with luminous text in multiple languages. Today we witness the union of Queen Lyra of the Eldorian Empire and Captain Anya Sharma of Earth, the official announced, her voice amplified to fill the vast space. This union establishes a binding alliance between our civilizations, recognized under Article 12 of the Galactic Concordat. The official presented the living document. Anya recognized her part of the ceremony and placed her hand on one side of the sheet. Lyra placed her hand on the other. The document responded to their touch, the luminous text flowing and rearranging itself. Do you, Anya Sharma, enter this union freely, pledging to uphold the alliance between Earth and Eldoria, to share wisdom and strength in times of need, and to stand as equal partner in the preservation of galactic harmony. I do, Anya replied, her voice steadier than she expected. The official turned to Lyra. Do you, Queen Lyra, enter this union freely, pledging to uphold the alliance between Eldoria and Earth, to share wisdom and strength in times of need, and to stand as equal partner in the preservation of galactic harmony? I do, Lyra responded, her multifaceted eyes fixed on Anya's, shifting through colors that somehow conveyed both solemnity and warmth. At their words, the living document began to glow more intensely. Thin tendrils extended from the sheet, wrapping gently around their joined hands. Anya felt a strange tingling sensation, not unpleasant but alien. The document was sampling their biological signatures, recording them within its own cellular structure. The biological covenant is established, the official declared. Let all present witness that these two are now joined in political and diplomatic union under the laws of Eldoria and the provisions of the Concordat. The tendrils retracted, and the document split into two identical copies, one for each of them. As Anya accepted her copy, she noticed that it seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. The ceremony is complete, the official announced. May this union bring strength to both your worlds and to all who seek peace in the galaxy. Applause rippled through the assembly, or what passed for applause among the various species present. Some flashed lights, others emitted harmonic tones, and a few thumped appendages against the floor. Lyra leaned close to Anya. There would typically be a celebration now, but I'm afraid circumstances don't allow for it. As if on cue, Commander Kalen approached with urgent purpose. Your Majesty, Captain Sharma, we've received alarming reports from the containment zone. The Star Devourer has increased its activity exponentially in the past hour. Multiple node failures have been detected. Lyra's expression hardened. It seems our adversaries have accelerated their plans. We must respond immediately. She turned to address the assembled dignitaries. Honored representatives, I must ask you to excuse us. A matter of grave importance requires our immediate attention. Without waiting for their response, Lyra gestured for Anya and Kalen to follow her. They moved swiftly through the palace corridors toward the command center, attendants and advisors falling into step behind them. Status report, Lyra demanded as they entered the command center. A senior officer responded immediately. The network is failing at 17 points, Your Majesty. Energy fluctuations within the containment zone have increased by 200% in the past hour. We're detecting movement patterns consistent with the early phases of awakening. The Kaldar, Lyra asked. We've presented evidence of the conspiracy to their High Council, another officer reported. They're in emergency session now, but internal divisions are preventing swift action. The faction loyal to Grand Magistrate Zorgan is still resisting full cooperation. And our captured saboteurs? Anya asked. They've confirmed what we suspected, Kalen replied. A radical faction within the Kaldar military has been deliberately weakening the containment network. They believe they can control the Star Devourer once it awakens, using ancient technology they've discovered. That's insane, Anya said. From everything you've told me, this entity can't be controlled. Desperation breeds dangerous delusions, Lyra observed grimly. We must act now, with or without Kaldar support. She turned to her officers. Deploy all available ships to the failing nodes. Priority 1 is stabilizing the network. The ships are already mobilizing, Your Majesty, but several critical nodes are in regions where we have limited presence. Even at maximum speed, our vessels won't reach them in time. Anya studied the tactical display, an idea forming. What about Earth ships? My people have vessels throughout this sector, freighters, exploratory craft, even some military patrols. Untested vessels with crews unfamiliar with the containment protocols, Kalen objected. But positioned where we need them, Anya countered. If I can get word to Earth authorities, explain the situation. There's no time for diplomatic channels, Kalen insisted. Then let me contact them directly, Anya said. I'm still captain of my ship, impounded but intact. The communication systems should work. My authorization codes will get me through to Earth Command. Lyra considered this for a moment, then nodded. Do it. Commander Kalen, give Captain Sharma access to her vessel's systems. Minutes later, Anya was sending an emergency broadcast to all Earth vessels within range. She explained the situation in terse, clear terms, emphasizing the imminent threat not just to Eldoria, but to all inhabited systems in the sector, including Earth's colonies. This is not a drill, she concluded. This is not a hoax. This is a Level 1 existential threat. All ships receiving this message are instructed to proceed immediately to the coordinates being transmitted and follow the technical protocols included in this packet. Authentication code: Sharma, Delta 7-9, Epsilon 3. Earth survival depends on your response. As she ended the transmission, Anya turned to find Lyra watching her with those inscrutable, color-shifting eyes. Will they respond? The Queen asked. They will, Anya said with confidence. Humans are good at pulling together in a crisis, especially when there's a clear enemy to fight. Let us hope so, Lyra replied, because the first wave of energy fluctuations will reach inhabited systems within hours. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Earth vessels began reporting in, proceeding to their assigned coordinates. Eldorian technicians transmitted simplified containment protocols, helping the human crews adapt their ship systems to generate the specific energy frequencies needed to stabilize the network. Meanwhile, Kaldar politics continued to hamper a unified response. The evidence of conspiracy had created turmoil within their leadership. Some factions now advocated full cooperation with Eldoria, while others, still loyal to Zorgan, insisted on maintaining independent action. Anya found herself at the center of the crisis coordination, translating Eldorian technical concepts into terms Earth crews could quickly understand and implement. Her years as a freighter captain, navigating both space and bureaucracy, had prepared her surprisingly well for this role. The first human vessels are in position, an officer reported. They're attempting to establish containment fields now. All eyes turned to the main display, which showed the energy patterns around a failing node. For a tense moment, the fluctuations continued to increase. Then, gradually, they began to stabilize. It's working, Kalen said, surprise evident in his voice. Their containment fields are crude but effective. More reports came in as additional Earth ships reached their designated positions. Not all were successful. 2 vessels suffered drive failures when attempting to generate the required energy patterns, but the majority managed to establish basic containment fields. We've stabilized 11 of the 17 critical nodes, a senior officer reported. The network is holding, but barely. The start of hours activity has plateaued, but not decreased. What about the radical Kaldar faction? Anya asked. Are they still actively sabotaging the network? We've neutralized most of their known operatives, Kalen replied. But the damage they've already done is severe. The network's core architecture has been compromised. Lyra, who had been in consultation with her chief scientists, returned to the central command area. We need a more permanent solution. The hasty containment measures are effective, but cannot be maintained indefinitely. Earth ships are not designed for this purpose, and even our vessels cannot hold position forever. What options do we have? Anya asked. Our scientists believe we can reconfigure the network into a more resilient pattern, Lyra explained. One that would be harder to sabotage and could potentially put the Star Devourer back into its dormant state. But it would require accessing the network's primary control nexus, which lies perilously close to the Devourer itself. That's a suicide mission, Kalen stated flatly. Perhaps not, Lyra replied. A small, fast ship might be able to approach undetected, especially with the Devourer's attention currently divided by multiple containment efforts. Anya recognized the unspoken implication. You want me to go? Your ship is one of the fastest in the sector, Lyra confirmed, and you've demonstrated remarkable adaptability under pressure. If anyone can succeed, it would be you. Absolutely not, Kalen objected. Sending an untrained human to the primary nexus is far too risky. I should lead this mission. Your skills are needed here, Commander, Lyris said firmly. Coordinating our fleet and maintaining relations with the Kaldar requires your diplomatic experience. I'm not going alone, Anya interjected. I'll need an Eldorian scientist who understands the network's core programming. Lyra nodded. That could be arranged. But you must understand the danger, Anya. Even if you succeed in reaching the Nexus, reconfiguring the network while the Devourer is active will be extremely hazardous. There's a significant chance you won't return. Anya took a deep breath, looking around at the command center filled with beings from multiple worlds, all working desperately to prevent catastrophe. 2 weeks ago, she had been a lone freighter captain, concerned only with her cargo and her freedom. Now she was married to an alien queen and facing a mission that might save the galaxy but cost her life. Strangely, the decision wasn't difficult. When do we leave? 4 hours later, Anya's freighter, heavily modified with Eldorian technology, was approaching the outer perimeter of the containment zone. Beside her sat Dr. Nevin, an Eldorian scientist who spoke little but worked with incredible efficiency. He had spent the journey reprogramming the ship's systems to interface with the network nexus. We're coming up on the final approach vector, Anya announced. How's that stealth field holding? Nevin checked his instruments. Functioning within acceptable parameters. The energy signature masking should make us appear as nothing more than background radiation to the Devourer's senses. The view screen showed their destination, a small, artificial construct floating in the void. It appeared deceptively ordinary, a simple space station that could have been a research outpost or monitoring facility. Only the occasional flickers of energy that surrounded it hinted at its true significance. Beyond the nexus, barely visible even on enhanced sensors, lurked the Star Devourer. Anya could not discern its exact form. It seemed to shift between states, sometimes appearing as a dark void, other times as a swirling mass of energy. The only constant was the sense of vastness, of hunger, and of ancient, alien intelligence. The Devourer is more active than our models predicted, Nevin observed tensely. The sabotage has accelerated its awakening process. Can we still reconfigure the network in time? Theoretically, yes, but we must reach the Nexus core, and the Devourer will certainly detect us once we begin the reconfiguration process. Anya guided the ship carefully toward the station, using minimal power to avoid detection. How long will the reconfiguration take? Approximately 12 minutes to complete the full sequence. Once initiated, it cannot be safely interrupted. So we start the process, then run like hell. Anya summarized. Doesn't sound too complicated, except that the Devourer will almost certainly target us, specifically once it detects the reconfiguration, Nevin added grimly. No ship has ever survived a direct confrontation. They docked with the station using manual controls to minimize energy signatures. The ancient facility appeared deserted, as it should be, given that it was designed to operate autonomously. The air was stale but breathable as they made their way through narrow corridors toward the central control chamber. This technology is incredible, Anya observed, studying the intricate patterns etched into the walls. Patterns that occasionally shifted and flowed like liquid. How old is this place? The original Nexus was constructed approximately 50,000 years ago, Nevin replied. It has been modified and upgraded periodically since then, but the core architecture remains the same. They reached the central chamber, a spherical room with a control interface floating at its center. The interface was not a conventional console, but a three-dimensional matrix of light and energy that responded to Nevin's gestures as he began the complex process of accessing the network's core programming. The system recognizes my authorization, he reported. Beginning diagnostic sequence. Anya kept watch, monitoring both the station's internal sensors and their ship's systems remotely. Everything seemed calm, too calm, given the crisis unfolding across the sector. Something doesn't feel right, she said, scanning the readouts again. This is too easy. Nevin continued working. The security protocols are responding normally. The saboteurs likely focused their efforts on the network nodes rather than the control nexus itself. Maybe, Anya said, unconvinced. But why leave the most critical point undefended? Her question was answered moments later when an alarm sounded from her remote linked to the ship. Proximity alert. We've got company. The scanner showed a Kaldar vessel approaching rapidly. Not a standard military ship, but a smaller, faster craft typical of special operations. They were waiting for someone to come here, Anya realized. Finish the reconfiguration. I'll try to slow them down. I need at least 10 more minutes, Nevin warned. I'll get you 5, Anya replied, already moving toward the exit. Use them well. She raced back to her ship, sealing the airlock behind her. The Kaldar vessel was nearly within weapons range, its intent unmistakable. Anya powered up her engines, deliberately creating a strong energy signature to draw their attention away from the station. Her gambit worked. The Kaldar ship altered course to pursue her as she pulled away from the Nexus. Anya pushed her engines to maximum, executing a series of evasive maneuvers that the larger vessel struggled to match. Her freighter, never designed for combat, had one advantage. The recent Eldoria modifications had significantly improved its maneuverability. For several minutes, she led the Kaldar ship on a chase through the outer perimeter of the containment zone, drawing it gradually away from the Nexus. The pursuer fired several times, energy beams slicing through space where her ship had been moments before. Just as she was beginning to think she might outrun them entirely, a lucky shot clipped her port engine. Warning lights flashed across her console as the ship lurched violently to one side. Systems began to fail, life support fluctuating as power reserves dwindled. Time to play my last card, Anya muttered. She programmed a specific course into the navigation system, then activated the emergency escape pod. As the pod ejected, she transmitted a broad-spectrum distress call, one that would be detected not just by any potential rescuers, but also by the Star Devourer itself. The Kaldar ship, detecting the pod's launch, hesitated momentarily before continuing pursuit of the main vessel, now operating on autopilot. Just as Anya had calculated, they assumed the pod was a diversion and the real threat remained aboard the ship. Her damaged freighter, following its final programmed course, led the Kaldar vessel directly toward one of the more active regions of the Star Devourer's domain. Both ships were soon engulfed in swirling energy patterns as the awakening entity responded to their presence. From her small escape pod, drifting back toward the Nexus station, Anya watched as both vessels were consumed by the cosmic predator. She felt a moment of grim satisfaction. The saboteurs had wanted to awaken the Devourer, and now they had experienced its power firsthand. By the time she managed to guide the pod back to the station, Dr. Nevin was in the final stages of the reconfiguration process. "I thought you weren't coming back," he said, his eyes shifting to a color Anya had learned indicated relief. "Had to take the scenic route," she replied. "How much longer?" "The reconfiguration is at 87% completion. When it reaches 100%, the new network pattern will activate automatically." He gestured to the display, which showed the energy web beginning to shift into a more complex, resilient configuration. And the Devourer? Already responding to the changes. Its activity is increasing. It senses the threat to its freedom. The station shuddered as if struck by an invisible force. Warning indicators flashed across the control interface. "The containment zone is destabilizing," Nevin reported, his voice tense. "The Devourer is fighting the reconfiguration." Another, more violent tremor shook the station. A section of ceiling collapsed nearby, narrowly missing them. "How much longer?" Anya demanded. 2 minutes to complete reconfiguration. But the station's structural integrity is failing. "We must leave immediately." "Not until the process is complete," Anya insisted. "Get to the escape pod. I'll hold position here and make sure the reconfiguration finishes." "The interface requires constant monitoring during the final phase," Nevin objected. "If you don't know the correct response sequences, then show me." Quickly, Anya moved to the control interface. "Basic pattern recognition, right? I can handle that." Nevin hesitated only briefly before guiding her through the essential procedures. These indicators must remain in the green spectrum. If any shift to red, adjust this control matrix to compensate. The station shook again, more violently. Part of the control room wall buckled inward. Go, Anya ordered. The pod won't launch if the station breaks up completely. Nevin left reluctantly, making his way to the escape pod, while Anya remained at the control interface, monitoring the reconfiguration progress as it inched toward completion. The final moments were a desperate struggle to maintain the delicate balance of the system while the station disintegrated around her. Just as the completion indicator reached 98%, a massive structural failure sent a support beam crashing down, pinning Anya's leg to the floor. Pain shot through her body, but she maintained her focus on the interface, making one final adjustment as the system reached 100%. A pulse of energy emanated from the Nexus, rippling outward through the network. On the display, she could see the containment pattern stabilizing, solidifying into its new configuration. The start of hours activity immediately began to diminish as the enhanced containment field took effect. The ancient entity fought against the new constraints, but its strength was already waning as it slipped back toward dormancy. Anya felt a mixture of triumph and resignation. The mission had succeeded, but the station was coming apart around her, and she was trapped beneath the debris. The escape pod with Dr. Nevin would have launched automatically by now. There would be no rescue, no last-minute escape. As the walls began to collapse inward, Anya closed her eyes, thinking of the strange journey that had brought her here, from freighter captain to the savior of countless worlds, all because she'd taken a wrong turn while evading pirates. Not a bad way to go out, she murmured to herself. Then, unexpectedly, the debris pinning her shifted. She opened her eyes to find herself surrounded by a translocation field similar to the one that had first brought her to Eldoria. The collapsing station faded from view, replaced by the familiar surroundings of an Eldorian vessel's transport chamber. Queen Lyra stood before her, those multifaceted eyes glowing with an intensity Anya had never seen before. "Did you think I would allow my consort to sacrifice herself so easily?" Lyra asked, a hint of what might have been humor in her melodious voice. "The network," Anya managed to ask as medical attendants rushed forward to treat her injured leg. "Reconfigured successfully," Lyra confirmed. "The start of hour is returning to dormancy. The crisis has passed, thanks to you." 3 days later, Anya stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Eldoria Prime. Her leg, treated with advanced Eldorian biotech, was nearly healed. Below, the city's living architecture glowed with celebration as news of the averted catastrophe spread throughout the empire. She heard soft footsteps behind her and turned to find Lyra approaching. The queen had dispensed with formal attire, wearing instead a simple garment that reminded Anya of flowing water. "The Kaldar High Council has sent formal apologies," Lyra informed her. "The radical faction has been removed from power. Grand Magistrate Zorgan has been relieved of his position. And the charges against me? Dismissed entirely. In fact, they've offered you a formal commendation." Anya laughed. What a difference a week makes. From condemned prisoner to decorated hero. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the lights of the city below. "What happens now?" Anya finally asked. "The crisis is over. The start of hour is contained. Is our arrangement still necessary?" Lyra turned to face her, those remarkable eyes shifting through colors that Anya had learned indicated thoughtful consideration. "Legally, our union remains valid regardless of circumstances," the queen said. "But if you wish to return to your former life, arrangements could be made. And if I don't?" The question surprised Anya almost as much as it seemed to surprise Lyra. "You would consider staying?" Anya gazed out at the alien city, so strange yet increasingly familiar. "I've spent my life running cargo from one end of known space to the other, never putting down roots anywhere. For the first time, I feel like I've found something worth staying for, a purpose bigger than myself." "As my consort?" Lyra asked, her tone carefully neutral. "As whatever I need to be," Anya replied. Diplomat, advisor, bridge between our worlds. She hesitated. And yes, as your consort, whatever that means as we figure out together. Lyra's eyes shifted to a warm, golden hue that Anya had never seen before. I did not anticipate this outcome when I claimed you from the Kaldar tribunal. Life's full of surprises, Anya said with a smile. Speaking of which, I've received 17 job offers from Earth authorities, from marriage proposals from humans who saw my broadcast, and a request to write my memoirs. Lyra made the crystalline sound that Anya now recognized as laughter. And what did you tell them? That I'm currently employed as consort to the Eldorian queen, and my schedule is rather full. Anya turned serious. The Star Devourer is contained, not destroyed. Sooner or later, it will stir again. Earth needs to be prepared, and so do all the other worlds in this sector. I can help make that happen. A worthy purpose, Lyra agreed. Though perhaps we can find moments of peace between crises. She extended her hand, a remarkably human gesture from the alien queen. Anya took it, feeling the slight tingle of bioenergy that always accompanied physical contact with an Eldorian. On the horizon, the twin moons of Eldoria were rising, casting their purple glow across the living city. Somewhere beyond those moons, the Star Devourer slumbered once more, the reconfigured energy network keeping its ancient hunger at bay. And here, on a balcony overlooking an alien world, a human woman who had once valued her solitude above all else found herself contemplating a future of diplomatic receptions, interstellar politics, and marriage to an alien queen. The universe, Anya reflected, had a strange sense of humor. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't running anymore. She had found her place among the stars, not where she had expected, but exactly where she needed to be.